What I'd like to do now is have Josh Zahn come up and give the results of a bio-based products manufacturers and government employee survey that was recently done. Josh is a consultant to USB, the National Biodiesel Board, and others. Josh has 27 years experience in public relations in Washington, D.C. and in the Heartland. Previously, John was Vice President of State Relations at the Hawthorne Group, a communications and public affairs firm based in Alexandria, Virginia. While there, he helped establish and manage Intercept, Hawthorne's national public affairs network. Josh developed Intercept into a network of state and government affairs professionals, providing strategic and communications counsel designed to meet specific client needs, including managing on-the-ground local political intelligence gathering and analysis in communities ranging from large metropolitan areas to rural towns. The network is regularly utilized to build multi-state coalitions that help support national issues and campaigns. Josh has done a great job for us over the past, and I hope you welcome him to the stage.
Getting that ready. One of the things that USP tries to do regularly is measure what it is that we're doing and try to get some sense of, this next panel is going to talk about moving the needle, so getting a sense of moving the needle that helps inform what's next. And so we do a series of surveys, a couple of them we do annually of bio-based manufacturers. We also do one annually of government employees, and I'll show you some results of that here in a moment. But also, all of you who registered may remember that we ask you a series of questions as well. So the first set of results are from the survey that you took when you registered. And so the question that we ask you is, what is the single most important benefit of using products? Now, this was an open-ended question. There were no prompts, so we took the responses that you gave us and grouped them into, you can see, about 6 different categories, and the 2 leading responses were clearly about environmental benefits, and then secondly, the renewable resource sustainability benefits. To some degree, those might have been similar categories, but we tried, and based on how you responded on those, we tried to separate that. But clearly, those are the 2 things that I think are most on people's minds about the most important benefit. The next question that we asked you was, what is the greatest obstacle to widespread use of bio-based products? Now, this was prompted. We gave you a choice of 5 different choices or other. And this is a broad question. This was just widespread use of bio-based products. It was not specific to government adoption. And so, by far, the perception of the greatest obstacle was knowledge. That was in that second category under all. That was all respondents, 53%, so more than half said knowledge. That doesn't necessarily mean, and this was based on some of the comments, it doesn't necessarily mean it was knowledge of, as in what are bio-based products, but it was knowledge of the process or knowledge of different aspects of it. But then we broke it down to those of you who are with government versus the industry folks, and knowledge really shot up. And the industry was getting a little bit, so there is a bit of a separation there in terms of perception of what the greatest obstacle to the widespread use is. The other one that stands out, highlighted in yellow, is on the specifications. Very few of the government employees said that specifications was an obstacle, whereas industry was a little bit higher. So there were 2 areas where there was a little bit of difference there. we asked, then drilled down a little bit more down, what is the greatest obstacle to government agencies or institutions adopting or increasing their use of bio-based products? And so here's where we really had to do some grouping, because again, this was open-ended, so we allowed you to give your comments on that. And still, lack of knowledge or awareness was the most common response, specifically for government adoption. And again, we categorize those, as I was saying earlier, it's related to availability, performance, and benefits, things like that. So it wasn't specifically, people don't know what bio-based products are. I think we've come a long way there. And the other one that was rated pretty high was the procurement process. And that was just different aspects of the process. So that's the responses there in terms of the survey that we did for you guys when you registered. Now, as I mentioned, we do an annual survey of government employees and of bio-based manufacturers. And so our most recent one was late summer and then in the early fall for manufacturers. And the question, there are a variety of questions that are on there, and I'm going to highlight a couple. This one was asking about familiarity with bio-based products. And the question had to do with, in your experience, do you feel that the familiarity with bio-based products has increased? Manufacturers, has it increased among federal, state, and or local government employees? 40% of manufacturers felt that it had increased. Now that was across the board at all levels of government. Whereas government employees had a higher percentage felt that their familiarity with bio-based products had increased by 60%. So that was a pretty good response. Next question had to do with major barriers to increased use of government sales. And this was a prompted response. We gave the choices, 5 choices there that we always give: contract specifications, the cost, the knowledge, performance, and availability. And you can see a couple highlights there in red with the manufacturers. Their top 2 that they felt were the major barriers to increase government sales and use. Contract specifications and cost came in at the same percentage, 53%. Knowledge was just below that for the manufacturers. Contrast that to the government employees' responses, where the top response was cost. They felt that that was the major barrier of the ones that were prompted there. And then secondly was availability. Now we didn't define availability, so that could have something to do with sort of a knowledge of availability, but in any sense, there's some difference there in the perception of the barriers. And then the last. The last one I want to highlight then is on that left-hand column where it says manufacturer key messages. What we asked the manufacturers was, we gave them a choice of about 7 different key messages that they might use when they promote and market their bio-based products. And so we said, what messages are you most often using or focusing on? Well, the top 2 there, renewable materials, 86%, and performance were the 2 that they particularly focused on. And green purchasing requirements and reducing displaced petroleum were pretty well up there as well. Then we asked the question a little bit differently. We asked manufacturers, okay, in your experience, what do you think is the most appealing aspect of your customers about bio-based products? And again, this was a prompted response. And performance was listed, not surprisingly, well up there. They reduce environmental impacts, whereas 78% said that their key message focuses on that. They felt like that only 16% of their customers felt like that was important. So A little contrast there, and then you get over to that last column there with the government employees. The question that was asked of government employees that was related to this is, what is the most important factor that you consider when you're purchasing bio-based products? And so the top answer was performance by government employees, and then, interestingly, human health was up there as well, and availability and better for the environment all came in at about the same response, a little over 50%. So that's kind of a quick overview of some of the things that we are asking. As I say, we do this every year. If you have registered for this workshop and dialogue, then you will probably get an email later this summer asking to participate. But if you're not on that and you want to make sure and participate in that, you can email me. I almost had to change this slide. You may not have been able to text me. I left my phone in a cab last night. Thanks to Don Evie, he allowed me. I called my phone, and after a couple of tries, this nice Dutch woman answered the phone and said, "Yes, I have it. The trouble was she was way up in Largo, Maryland, but I retrieved it." She must have been very happy because of her team did so well against Spain. In any event, if you are interested in participating, want to make sure to have that opportunity, let me know, and I'd be glad to take any questions that you might have. Great, thank you.